Alright, today we're talking Shimano 12-speed drivetrains. More specifically, Shimano Rear Derailleurs. So for those of you who don't know, Shimano's mountain bike 12-speed lineup starts with Deore, moves up to SLX, then the Deore XT, finally to the creme de la creme, XTR. All 12-speed drivetrain components from Shimano are compatible with one another. So you can put an XTR shifter on a Deore Rear Derailleur with an SLX cassette. What that gives us is the power to sort through all of the differences of every 12-speed component and pick the ones that are going to give us the best bang for our buck. Today we're looking at the Rear Derailleurs here to see, is the Deore or the XTR where we should be putting our money? As with anything in the mountain bike industry, typically the more money you spend, the lighter it gets. And with that comes some resiliency in product, comes some reliability. But on the Rear Derailleurs, you're going to find out there's not that much difference between the Deore and the XTR. Today we're going to go over those differences, and to do that we're going to clear this wall off behind me and use the magical powers of video editing. Just a quick clarification before we really get started here. Everything we're going to be talking about today and comparing is on the 1x12 Rear Derailleur from Shimano. So it looks like this. This is the SLX version. They do make a 2x12 and a short cage option for different bike setups, but the 1x12 long cage is what you're going to see on most modern mountain bikes, so that's what we're going to be covering today. As far as parts and everything, they do carry on along to the 2x12 and the medium cage options, but the weight is really where the differences come in, so we're only going to be basing that weight on the 1x12. Alright, so with the pleasantries out of the way, let's get started. From least expensive to most expensive, the first one you've got is the Deore. Comes in at $57 and it weighs 320 grams. Next up is the SLX, coming in at $68 and weighing 313 grams. Third up on the list is the Deore XT. For the rest of the video, we're just going to call that the XT. That's what most people reference it as. That comes in at $110 and 284 grams. And finally, the best non-electronic shifter Shimano makes, the XTR, comes in at $272 and weighs just 240 grams. All right, and that's our lineup. And as you can see, as price goes up, weight goes down. All right, so before we get too far into the differences here, let's go over what is the same. So on the Deore, the SLX, the XT, and the XTR, you're getting the exact same clutch mechanism. That's not changing between all four of those. You're getting the same general design, same 13-tooth jockey wheels, and you're getting the same mounting system that does work with any Shimano 12-speed cassette. So with the similarities out of the way, let's get into the differences. And there are three main ones in my opinion. The first and most important being the jockey wheel differences. On the SLX and Deore lines, the jockey wheels use these end caps and a bushing for the screw to run through. On the XT and XTR line, the jockey wheels have sealed bearings installed in them. What that gives you is a more smoother experience with the XT and XTR jockeys and a little bit of a more gritty experience with the SLX. In practice, I'm not sure how different these two jockey wheels are, but there's enough of a difference that Shimano spends the extra money and puts the extra time into putting a sealed bearing into the higher end lines. Now, there are three jockey sets that you can purchase, the 7100, 8100, and then the XTR has the 9100 set. Both the 8100 and the 9100 are sealed bearings, but they seem to be a little bit different. My guess is it's a weight thing with the XTR over the XT. And then the 7100 is used in both the SLX and the Deore lines. All right, on to difference number two. That's materials of construction. So in the Deore and SLX lines, you'll see more steel components. As you move up to the XT, you'll start to see more aluminum. And then in the XTR, you see a lot of carbon reinforced plastic. I've used Shimano's documentation and created a full comparison chart that is linked below. Generally, as you move up the line of components, the materials of construction get lighter and lighter, which is why you see the weight savings and the cost go up. In the comparison chart, you can look at each specific part and see what's different across the lines. I've highlighted it so you can see, is this used on XTR and down, only XT and down, only SLX, or is it different for every part? There's really not that many differences, so let's cover a few of them now. All right, so besides the metal finishings on each of these, the main differences really are these two plates here. The inner plate is the same on the XTR, XT, and SLX. It's an aluminum. On the Deore, it is steel. The outer plate here is carbon fiber on the XTR, aluminum on the XT, and steel on the SLX and Deore. Other than that, the main difference is this little rubber bumper that is supposed to quiet the bike when you're in the smallest cog. So when the chain is coming across here, it keeps it from slapping here. That exists on the XTR, the XT, and the SLX, but not on the Deore. All right, and finally to our third difference, and that is how you adjust the clutch on the 4 different derailleurs. On the Deore and SLX, like in my hand, you remove 3 bolts to remove this cover, and then you can adjust the clutch inside. On the XT and XTR, there's a small port here that you can open up to adjust the clutch from the outside. It saves you having to remove the 3 bolts to take off the clutch cover, but really how often are you adjusting your clutch tension? And so, this brings me to my hack. If you want all the functionality of an XT or XTR derailleur, and you're not that concerned about weight, what you can do is purchase the XT 8100 pulley set, install it on your Deore SLX, and save yourself a bunch of money. Functionally, your Deore derailleur works the exact same way as your XTR. We already know that the clutches are the same. We already know the main difference is that there's sealed bearings in the higher end ones, and there's just a bushing style in the lower end ones. So what if you bought the Deore XT jockey wheels and installed them on your SLX or Deore? You essentially have an XT at that point. And for that matter, you essentially have an XTR, as long as you don't care about weight. And if you're like most mountain bikers that I know, you're probably drinking a beer while you're watching this video. So let's demonstrate how much beer you have to not drink tonight to make up for the difference in weight from Deore to XTR. All right, so we've got our glass, we've got our beer, 0 grams. So we know that if you put the XT jockey wheels onto the Deore derailleur, you basically have an XTR. We're stretching things a bit, but it's close, with the main difference being the weight. So an XTR weighs 240 grams and the Deore weighs 320. The difference in price, even with the added cost of the 8100 jockey wheels, is about $200. So you could spend $75 on a Deore with the jockey wheels, or you could spend $272 on the XTR for an 80 gram difference. Here's how much 80 grams is in beer. So you could not crack that second beer tonight and save yourself $200 on your rear derailleur. Should you be putting your money into the rear derailleur? No. Is that money better spent on other components of your bike? Absolutely. In future videos, we're going to see where that money should go and try to save you some money along the way. That way you're not just going out and buying a full XTR group set when a Deore would have sufficed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.